Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Game Changers United podcast. Again, we have a special guest. It's Loïs from the US today. Loïs, welcome to the show. I'm going to introduce you very shortly because you can do it so much better than me. So, Loïs, when I first saw your application, the first sentence that was there really triggered me. You said, I was dying at 55 and now I'm rollerblading with my grandson at 78. And I was like, okay, this is the reason why I'm doing this podcast. Loïs, you are a counselor for shame and guilt, and you have various ways where you help people to get rid of eventually of the shame and guilt around in their lives. I want to give you the floor to tell a little bit more about who you are before we deep dive into your personal story, because it's quite an intense story that we're going to share with the audience. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you, my dear friend Myrtle. I love your name, and forgive me for the mispronunciation.
It's fine.
I am 70. Well, I'm 79 next month.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I'm having a big party for 80, obviously on the roller ring, of course. Why wouldn't I?
I love it.
Okay. So since I'm 79 years old, I have a long story, and I'm not going to tell you everything because we'll never get to the shame guilt. I have always wanted to be a healing person. I've always thought about health, even as a young child. I've always thought health was so important. I wanted to find ways of being healthy, etc. So I just was. It was not because my mother, my father, my grandmother, I have no idea. I just felt health was the most important thing to me. Money was important too, but I felt that if I didn't have my health, I couldn't have any.
Mm-hmm. True.
So obviously I went into the nursing field, and we're talking about in the late 1950s, when nursing was really quite different than it is today.
Like what? Can you set the scene a little bit for us? Like,
how was that?
How did it look?
Nurses were. I went to a 3-year nurses program, St. Joseph Hospital, trained by the Holy Sisters. So you really get the training. And then I went to University of Penn for, my bachelor's in science in nursing, which at that point was very significant. However, today you get a master's and that looks okay. But anyway, in my realm of 1950, which is like 60 years ago, life was so different, and nurses were more into patient care. Nurses gave the patient care. It wasn't delegated to an aide or someone else. Not that they're not important. It's just that the nurse's job was to see to the patient. And she did most of everything, the medications and the healing and the communication of doctors and family. She was the coordinator for that particular patient. Now, I was given 2 or 3 patients. Today, nurses have they give out the pills. That's her job today. The other nurse does with orders. That's her job. So it's all segregated. When I was in nursing, I had to bring everything together for my patient.
It's like more a holistic approach, basically.
That's you're very smart. So I knew my patients. I knew what they were allergic to. I knew who their mother was that came to visit them. Yeah. I knew the doctor. So when the doctor came on the floor, he'd say, where's, my name was Sabatka. Where is Miss Sabatka? She's caring for my patient. So it was more individual. And that is the biggest change. And then also, I had a podcast for nurses, and I said that every supervisor or director of nursing, they get promoted. The more you do and the more you excel, you get promoted. But what is that promotion? That promotion takes you away from the patients. So you lose contact of what the patient needs, and therefore your rules and regulations are skewed. But that's normal. So that's what I see in today. And that would be a whole podcast in itself. But nursing has changed, medicine has changed, etc.
Definitely. Yeah.
And one of the reasons I was so excited to be asked to head the kidney dialysis unit, I started one of the first kidney hemodialysis unit in the United States.
Yeah, amazing.
And I was so excited because I was the director of the unit. I directed what people did, how they did it, how they treated patients. I was also a nurse because I was the one putting the patients on dialysis.
Mm-hmm.
I was a lecturer because I'm the one that taught the doctors and the nurses in the hospital how to handle nursing with dialysis patients. And I could research because nobody really knew how to do it because I was one of the first. So it solved all my needs.
Yeah.
So I'm more of a holistic person, I would assume. I never really realized that. You're a very good interviewer.
Well, I'm a coach as well, so this is funny
Okay.
because I can tell by the way that you filled in the form and the things that are on your website, that the holistic approach is something that is your strength because for everything that you do as well.
Right, I cooking and cleaning and anyway. So somewhere around 50, I was starting to get very depressed. I mean, like severely depressed. I wasn't working at that time. I was taking care of my children. I lost 3 pregnancies.
Yeah.
And then I had 3 children. So my children were my life.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So that's very important. And the shame guilt that comes with losing a child adds to
I know how it
shame.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gathering and holding on to all the shame of my life unknowingly, because what do we know? Nobody told us. They just give us shame. That's all. I had an abusive childhood. My neck was broken. Of course, I died and God sent me back. My ribs were broken. I had many skull fractures.
Yeah. You said, of course, I died. Did you say that?
Yeah, I had a neardeath experience.
Yeah, exactly. But for us, it's not of course. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that part?
I don't remember much. I just remember, but I didn't remember it until I was 50. Yeah. I just was on an automatic doing and loving what I did, and all of a sudden I collapsed. And it was so shocking to me because I'm such a productive being. And here I am laying in bed depressed and suicidal, really.
Yeah. And there was no trigger. It was from one moment to another.
Well, it came on gradually, like over months or maybe a year.
Okay.
But I'm just I have a problem. Or a good thing. I'm an incurable optimist.
An incurable optimist. Wow, I think we need to shake hands. Yeah.
So when the doctor said you have a year or 2 to live, I'm like, who can I find that can help me? It wasn't like who can help me to not die. So that was my problem. My problem wasn't my disease. My problem was finding the right way to fix it.
There was no doubt in your mind that you would not live it.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah.
My problem was finding the right person.
And this disease that you're talking about, because you're we were in your 50s with the depression, and this disease that you're talking about.
Depression. Well, because of the broken neck and all the brain traumas, I had 30 years of migraine headaches.
Okay.
So you have to take some medication for that in order to survive. So I took various medicines, and obviously your liver and your kidneys don't do well with that. So my liver was non-functional that well. My kidneys had a low filtration rate, and I had a leaky mitral valve prolapse. So I wasn't exchanging gases, and I had scoliosis so bad I was bent over like 35 degrees. because of all the fractures in my ribs. So my oxygen was poor. I had a leaky valve and my heart couldn't pump properly. I had irregular heartbeats all the time. My kidneys and livers weren't functioning. So my life expectancy was very poor.
But what, like, this was all a result of the physical abuse in your childhood?
Yes.
So you kept it in your body for so long? What did they do to you?
They threw me down the steps. I was thrown down the entrance to the garage, and it was all cement. So I cracked my face, and someone actually took my head and twisted it, and that's when they broke C1, 2, and 3. I think I was like 5 or 6 years old. So it was tremendous abuse, and I was dyslexic. I couldn't read because the words, irlen syndrome, and I couldn't read. So they told me at school that they called my parents in. They said, you have to understand that it was a religious organization, religious school. We are a religious school, so we'll keep your child in school because we are a religious order, but we will not teach her because she cannot be taught because she's a stupid child. She cannot read and write. So,
Lois, I have one of my clients. She's a little bit younger than you are, and she's heavily dyslexic as well. And she actually heard the exact same thing that you're saying now, and believing her whole life that she was stupid. And it really, like, it hurts so much.
Well, the shame guilt is like huge. It's like, I remember the sister, I said, how can I stop the words from moving? Because that's irlen syndrome.
How can I stop the words from moving?
From moving. And that's, if you look up irlen, irlen syndrome, people can't read because the words move, because of the brain traumas. But in 1950 something, they didn't know that. They didn't even know about dyslexia.
So, and was there anyone in school that saw that you were being abused?
I can't remember that.
So there was no one there for you then.
Okay, now I can get into this part where I didn't fast track many years ago. When I started teaching the shame guilt work and other things, I was talking about how it's affects us, how it does this and does that, and the personality parts within us, and so forth and so forth. And my friends raised their hand. They said, Lois, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't see what you're seeing. I said, you don't see how your inner parts of you talk and how you can see shame guilt? They go, Lois, I love you dearly. And you make a lot of sense, but I don't know what you're talking about. Please explain, or please draw it, because I want to know this information, but I can't understand what you're saying. And that was the biggest shock in my life. That's like 20 years ago. People don't see what I see.
Yeah. Oh, I recognize that. I recognize it so much. Yeah.
And it's like, oh my goodness, I got to go to film school.
How can you not see this? Sorry, what did you say?
I had to go to film school to make a film so I can show what I did. So at 62 or 3, I went to film school. Right? I had to.
You had to, of course.
I had to, of course. So through my whole life, I just knew things. The most happiest day is when I was accepted to the University of Pennsylvania, which in our country is an Ivy League school and very, very competitive. Okay. And I got in. I go, oh my goodness, I'm not stupid. I'm really smart. Now,
yes, and this thought that you had, oh my God, I'm not stupid, I'm smart. This is exactly what's underlying, right? I mean, the limiting belief that you put on many, many, many years ago, like, I'm stupid. That's something that you carried on with you your whole life.
Of course.
You needed something else to show you the opposite.
Yeah, that I was smart. I went, wow, that's so exciting. I was walking around. Now, what helped me heal from all the brain dramas, dyslexia, not heal, but function.
Yeah.
I had an intense desire to tap dance.
To tap dance. Yeah.
I had to dance. I drove my parents crazy until they gave me private lessons. And I tap danced from, I don't know, the second grade all the way through high school.
Wow.
I still tap dance.
So
but it helped coordinate the right and left brain.
Do you know, your story reminds me of a book that I read, like that literally saved my life after I had a miscarriage. And I think it's a compliment. So I decided that I wanted to share it with you. Your story looks a lot like the story of Edith Eger. I don't know if you know her.
No.
So,
I read a very limited amount.
So yeah, so she actually is she's a Holocaust survivor. She was dancing for the Angel of Death at the age of 16, and she escaped. She survived, and then she moved from Hungary to the US eventually, and started her psychology at 51, I think, or 55. And she was also a dancer. So she was also using her dancing to get rid of the traumas or to help her go through that. And she runs a practice now where she helps people to break free from the prison that they created. So and this story reminds me of you so much. So I really think you should look her up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So
and I had, like, no one came to me and said, you should dance. You know, I just danced. I had to dance. And my mother was an incredible seamstress. So she made all the beautiful costumes. Okay. And I danced and danced, and I had stair steps. My father made all these stair steps, and I tapped them up and down the stair steps. And I was just tap dancing all the time. So that really helped so much. But anyway, all this shame, guilt, even though I had a positive, unbelievable makeup, I fell down. I fell down so bad that I was suicidal. And that's when I called for help. I go, oh my God, I really believe the world's better without me. And that shook me to my core. Like, I got to get help somewhere. So I did talk with the therapist for a while, and I didn't want to commit suicide, but I wasn't happy, like dancing. And I just wasn't happy. And another turning point was when I had headaches that became more severe. Well, you know how any illness gets worse if you don't heal it. So at that point, my headaches were like horribly horrible. And so I went to my doctor, and he says, oh, you have cluster migraines. I went, oh, great. We got a diagnosis. No. Let's fix it. And he said, you need to take narcotics now.
Yeah.
I went,
no,
I can't take any more drugs. I'm so sensitive to begin with. So I came home. I threw all the pills down the toilet, fell on my floor, on my knees, crying to God. That was very hard. I had no way out. But I knew there was. That's what it was. So
it's very
it was, yeah. So I said, I just can't find the right person. Now, my ex-husband is a medical, pardon?
Are you okay?
My ex-husband was a medical doctor. My 2 children are medical doctors and married to a medical doctor. So am I in the medical world? Yes. So I'm like saying, I can't deal with the medical work. But in, let's say 40 years ago, holistic medicine really wasn't in vogue. Like, that was not like talked about. So my daughter had scoliosis the same as me. And she was 12 years old. And this is a story worth saying. And I took her to the doctor's, because I'll have all this medicine people in my life. And they said, oh, she has scoliosis, and we need to do the operation where we put in metal rods in her back.
Mm.
And I flipped back to my nursing career. They put metal rods in the child's back and they end up in a wheelchair later
Oh, yeah.
because they don't fix it. They just make it immobile and it's painful. And I went, no,
Mm.
no. And then my daughter says, Mom, I have so much pain. What are you going to do? I said, I don't know, but we're not doing that.
Wow, that takes a lot of courage.
I don't know yet, but we're not doing that because
I don't know yet. I love that. Yeah.
but I will know, but I don't know now. So luckily, one of my friends, I was shopping and one of my friends says, Lois, you look terrible. You look so depressed. I am depressed. My daughter has scoliosis. I don't know what to do with it. And she said, why don't you see my friend? I said, who's your friend? She's a chiropractor. And I went, oh, they're quacks. You know, that's what medicine tells you. Chiropractors are quacks.
Yeah.
So, and then she said, no, she's really wonderful. And I said, okay. So then I walked across the street. They had payphones on the street then. We didn't have cell phones. So I went into the payphone and dialed the person, the doctor, and she says, oh, I'll see her right away. She sounds like she's in pain and I can help her. I went, okay. So I went to see her and she was a neurosurgeon that changed to chiropractic because of the many wonders that she could do. And she helped her within 2 visits and she was straight and never had. So I'm going, what? Yeah. Well, she's only 12. It's so easy to put the bones back. I mean, it really is. So I said, well, what else can you do? I mean,
why not?
What else can you do? She says, well, she said, you look very tired. I said, I have all these headaches. She said, oh, I can fix it. I said, well, okay. So she kind of did some things. And that's when I started holistic medicine.
Okay. That was your first experience with alternative way, what actually should have been a normal way, but that's
in the old days. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And because at that time you were still depressed, you were coming out of it, and because I think like it also has it multiplies your physical condition.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
and I was very sick. I was. Anyway, so that's how that changed. And of course, then I visited another friend of mine in the West Coast, and she told me about this other doctor that he was a chiropractor, but he's a shaman healing. I mean, he does things that nobody. Let's say it this way: her friend went to see him, who was blind, and this doctor found a cranial injury in his head, adjusted it, and he could see.
No.
So I said, he's for me. And I went to visit him, and he says, I can help you, but you need to move close because you have many injuries.
You need to? Sorry?
I had to move close. I'm on the East Coast, and he's on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Because you have so many injuries, and you're not going to die from your scoliosis, even though you can't breathe. You're going to die from your heart. You have a very leaky valve. Now, he doesn't do x-rays or anything. He just touches you and knows what's wrong. So, anyway, long story short, I married him.
You married him?
Yeah.
You are right.
And I'm perfectly healthy, except just my jaws right now, because my jaws were so fractured. We're still working on that. But I have been able to stand straight. I don't even have a mitral valve problem anymore. No surgeries, no drugs, nothing.
Wow, that's amazing. I would have married him as well.
But I mean, I felt for the first time I saw him, I said, I love you, but to myself, but he was married. So I said, okay, but fix my body, help me. Anyway, so, we're talking about 15 years.
Yeah.
The long story. I'm trying to short.
Yeah. Well, it's fine.
Anyway, as you know, and as your listeners know, if you have to deal with shame guilt. Now, some of us have more of it and some have less of it. Depends on our life. I had a huge amount. So in therapy, once somebody said, Lois, what do you do about shame? And I went, another moment. I never know. I nenever heard that word. I
So,
don't know.
so what was the shame part for you? Can
Well,
you?
let me. So I'm like,
Okay.
like I'm talking to your listeners. Shame. Oh, I never thought about it, and here I am swimming in it. That's
Hmm.
how. That's how blind we are. Here I am swimming in shame, and someone says, "Lois, what do you do with shame?" I go, "Ah, I don't know. Never thought about it. Never thought about it." And that was running my whole existence all my life.
Hmm.
But that's not unusual, right? No,
No.
we don't know that. So that's what my mission is, to expose it. So I went to the library and it said it was sickness of the soul. In the year 1999, we didn't have internet. So anyway, eventually I came to learn about the shame guilt energy. How did I do that? It just came to me because of it just happened. That's who I am. Things just come to me when I need to know it.
Yeah, what I really liked on your website is you said my profession found me.
Yes, this is how it happened. Because
Exactly. Yeah, I love that.
I, with spirit, and I was also counseling people at that time and helping
Hmm.
myself a little bit. And another point was, I was very tired of talking to therapists. Therapists are good, they have their place. But I decided to talk to myself instead of talking to a therapist.
Hmm.
I said, "Hi, depression, how are you? Hi, anxiety, how are you?" And my depression, anxiety, like the inner family.
What
I
I really
talk to
like
myself.
about that is, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think this would be really helpful for a lot of listeners, is by doing that, by talking to it, you automatically place it outside of you. Like you are not your anxiety or you are not your depression. It's like it's something external that takes
Well, it's
over.
an inside part of you. And then I found out my depression was a 10-year-old inside of me, and my anger
Mhm.
was about an 8-year-old. My hurt was about 4-year-old. And then
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
finally got to the inner critic and made friends and all that. So obviously I healed like big time. Like,
Mm.
whoa, and my hair stopped being gray and I'm walking straight and and they go,
Mm.
"Lois, what did you do?" And I said, "I'm talking to myself. I'm living in Sedona, which is the seat of self-awareness in the United States." Anyway, so everybody wants to know what you're doing. So I said, "I'm talking to myself." They said, "Can we do that?" And I said, "Well, I guess so." So they came to me and I taught them how to talk to themselves like I did and get rid of the shame guilt energy.
Yeah.
And and then they changed,
Yeah.
and they sent their mothers and fathers and kids and to me. And then I had this big following. They said, "Lois, you should charge for this." I said, "Charge for what? I'm just telling you how to talk to yourself and you get well."
And this is the problem with a lot of game changing coaches and people that are doing things that are so natural for them. It's like, but I'm not doing. I'm just doing something that comes so natural, but it's of the highest value for other people.
Yeah, and that's why we're talking. So they
Exactly.
said, "You should charge for that." I said, "Oh, really?" So anyway, my profession found me. Then I got so overwhelmed with people wanting to have more business, people to having more money, people having to eat better, have food disorders, people have parent disorders. They want relationship changes. They want to feel happy. They don't know how they procrastinate. They're depressed. It didn't matter. Everybody came with a different problem, but the answer was the same: just get rid
Yeah.
of shame guilt. So I wrote a book because
Of
I said,
course you
I
did.
can't talk anymore. I can't say it anymore. So I wrote a book and said, "Read my book and then come see me."
Yeah.
I can't say it anymore.
Yeah. What's the name of the book?
Emotional revolution equals evolution.
Ooh.
And it's on my website. But anyway, so that's how I start writing, because I can't. How many times can you say it? No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And I was losing, that enjoyment,
Mm.
because it was, I had to write a
Yeah,
book.
I recognize what you're saying. Like at one point, you feel it's not that you don't want to talk about it anymore, but it takes a lot of energy to keep repeating the same things.
Yeah, and I'm a person that keeps learning and growing and evolving.
Exactly,
So it's
exactly that. Yeah.
Save yourself some money. If you want to pay me for me to tell you all this, okay.
Yeah.
But it would serve you well to read this, do my podcast, and then come see me. We can do a session, and it'll be great for all of us.
Yeah, it will save you some time.
Time and money. Anyway, so that's how all that started. But then the pandemic came.
Yeah.
And then everybody is aware now of some shame and guilt. And so now I became very busy, and I was like so excited because finally, I can get this message across to people, because it is so important. And the more I talk with people, the more I help people. Yeah. It's so important. And all the different countries I'm in, each one says the same thing. So that's why I made another film, I'm Good, and I made shame, guilt visible.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I see it.
Yeah.
And I wanted people to see it. So it's a thing. And I'm very lucky, because some people say, oh, that's the shame guilt leech. That's the shame guilt alien baiter. That's the vampire. And I can talk about, how my approach is different than other people, if you want.
Yeah. So what I'm really curious of is, like, I believe that everyone's approach is unique because you bring yourself in it. Right. So what I think would be very valuable is let's start with how can you define shame, and how do you define guilt? That's my first question. You're so smart, because that's the key to everything. Thank you. Okay, when you say shame and you say guilt, your mind goes, what do I work on the guilt? Do I work on the shame? How it's different? You know how there's a coin that you have. It has heads and tail, money coin. Shame, guilt. I don't say shame and guilt. Shame, guilt is heads and tails is guilt. Okay. It's same thing, but it's called different, but it's still the coin. But it has heads and tails. And that's how I can say shame, guilt. Now, why does everyone say shame and guilt? We have two nervous systems, and I know you know that. We have the conscious nervous system and the unconscious. The unconscious nervous system, shame energy goes on it. And then the conscious nervous system is guilt. But it's the same energy. Sorry. So is it like, can you say that the shame is invisible and the guilt is visible for yourself? You could say that, but what I want to do is say shame, guilt. I don't know, like if I could call it a pickle. I need to call it another name than shame and guilt, but I can only put shame, guilt together, and maybe I'll get a word. Shame, guiltness, or something. I can think with you on that. I always need a word. Words. I will come up with a word for you. I need a word. Yeah. Because I'm a trailblazer. I got to make the word, because it isn't a word, so I'll make one. So in the medical field, which I'm very much a part of, if you have a virus in your brain, they call it meningitis. Yeah. If you have the same virus in your kidneys, they call it nephritis. Okay. If you have the same virus in your lungs, they call it pneumonia. But it's the same thing. And the treatment's the same, because it's the same virus. But they call it different names because of the location of the virus in your body. Okay. But it confuses the heck out of you. Because you say, oh, I have pneumonia, I have nephritis. Well, it's the same virus, but in billing for insurances, they need all these names. But essentially, you have the virus, and it lodged in your brain. You have the virus that's in your lungs, and they call it pneumonia. But it confuses you.
So that's why I say we have to say shame, guilt, because our mind stays together, focused. When we go shame, guilt, our mind goes, ah, ah. We don't collect it and focus on it. We focus on shame or guilt, and we get nowhere.
Yeah, it's true. I'm really thinking about the coin. The coin is really a good metaphor for it. And sometimes you just throw it up and you don't, or you put it up and you don't know on what side it's going to land. And would you say that shame and guilt is also something that's always related to an external event? Or is it something that you create based on all the beliefs that you build up during your life or due to experiences?
It's both. Okay. We have the love energy.
The love energy?
What does love energy give you? Joy and happiness, confidence, self-esteem, no worries, no upsets. We communicate with people. We're sensitive. We're loving. We have no prejudice. It's loving, but it has many, many emotions to it. Love energy has many emotions. However, the shame guilt energy, which comes to us, has many negative emotions.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah.
It turns our compassion to depression. See, every emotion has positive and negative.
Yeah.
We are already compassionate. We are already loving. We're already intuitive. We are already happy. We don't have to go find it. It's there. Shame, guilt turned our emotions from positive to negative. Intuition turns to anxiety. Passion turns to anger. So wouldn't it be better just to get rid of the shame, guilt energy and everything turns back to positive?
So, Lois, before we dive into that, because I agree with you, we need to get rid of it. But I want to answer one question in between. So now we defined it. Okay, that's clear. How do you identify shame and guilt in your life?
Shame, guilt.
Shame, guilt. Oh, sorry.
Right. No. We have to learn our words.
Yeah. So how do you identify shame, guilt in your life right now? For example, a lot of people that are listening are successful business owners, successful entrepreneurs or leaders or organizations. And I've been talking to a lot of them, and like a lot of women, we all experienced losing our child, for example. I experienced it myself. Like we take it with us, but how do we know that we carry that game shield virus with us?
And that's what I just want to say one thing. This helps. Think of what happens to your computer when it gets a virus.
It blocks.
It distorts everything. Your Microsoft Word doesn't work, and then my hard drive doesn't work, but your Microsoft, everyone's different. But it's the same virus. And what do? You get a virus removal program, right? You have to.
Yeah.
Shame, guilt, energy is like a computer virus. You can't see it. You can't see the computer virus, but boy, you see its effect.
Yeah.
So the shame, guilt, energy, you can't see it. You only feel it. The shame, guilt, energy comes from the words of other people.
Yeah.
You stupid jerk. Why did you do that? And I teach people to just say, no, I don't accept that. Our inner critic is our shame, guilt producer. Go ahead. His job is to produce shame, guilt. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I'm thinking about the metaphor of the virus. So, for example, my computer. Whenever I have a virus, I fix it. But there's also programs to protect my computer for getting the virus. And it's the same with this energy. Like it can be very reactive when you work on it, when you work through some events that you went through in your life, like losing kids or stuff like that then the shame guilt energy needs to be like solved in a reactive way, and how can you proactively protect yourself from getting that energy?
That's why I call myself an educator. We have to learn what shame, guilt, energy does to us and how it comes into us. We were never taught that. We were taught to use it from our parents, our government, our religion. Now we have to teach ourselves, what is shame, guilt, energy? How do I see it? And what does it look like? That's why I have a book, 500 Questions, One Answer. And it shows you 500 ways you shame yourself or other people shame you, because we don't know. I'm, after 10 years, I'm finally saying, oh, that's a shameful comment. Oh, okay. But I didn't know that right away because I thought it was normal. I mean, there are therapists saying shame, guilt is, no, they say shame and guilt is normal. I said, shame, guilt is not normal. It's common.
It's common.
But it's not normal. God did not make shame, guilt, energy to be normal and make us become victims and become unsuccessful and hate ourselves. How can a substance be normal if it destroys us? It's not normal. No, it's common. It's common. It doesn't belong to me.
So it reminds me of something that so I was on Bali recently, and I was there on a 2-month spiritual journey with one of the high priests there. We actually launching the podcast with him tomorrow, and I work with him as well. We're going to organize the first retreat together there. It's really amazing. But so I was in one of his retreats, and he was saying, when you take the lessons out of the substance, it is empty. So everything has a function. That triggered me, and that now you were saying this, so I'm just putting things on the table. Like, could it be that it has a function, but it's not a nice one? I mean, it's with a lot of things in life.
You can feel that way. You know, to some people, it's just a hard thing to say because this is so individual that shame, guilt is used to make people do things. Now, it's made to do something to somebody that isn't going to move anyway. But anyway, in my experience, I'm kind of empirical. Shame, guilt is not good. It's just not good. It's a malevolent energy placed upon humanity to make us devolve and make us stupid. That's it.
Yes. So, but the thing that I want to get to is, I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's functional because
it has a function
in the end
if you use it properly.
Exactly, and that's what you are doing. So that's my point. Like everything in life, whether it's
good or bad, like I too lost my child, and you know, I understand. And I talked to God a lot about it, and it did bring me to a higher consciousness because I had to go to a higher conscious to heal from it. I couldn't heal with my day-to-day. No. I had to go higher. I had to evolve higher in order to make peace with it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. And I think this is a philosophical, theological thing, and we're not going to get an answer. I just have to say, for your purposes as you are here today, dealing with shame, guilt, we can't have it in our life. Now, if I digress, there's and you would enjoy this because you're very scientific. You can look it up on the computer. Dr. David Hawkins, Hawkins. Okay, he now lives in heaven, but he gave an energy number to every emotion.
Okay.
Okay. He starts out with enlightenment. We all know what enlightenment is, and with your background, you can understand enlightenment. It is at 700,000, 700,000 to the 30th power. That's 30 zeros. That's huge.
Yeah.
And according to my mathematical son-in-law, there is a number named for that, which I forgot. But it's 700,000 with 30th power. That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Then we have love and joy and happiness and hope. And they come down. It's like 100,000, 50,000. So they're all decreasing, but they're still good. I mean, 700,000 to 100,000 is a drop, but it's still good. And then at 200, 200, at 200, it turns negative. It starts out with anger and hatred and depression and anxiety. Do you know what the last one is? Shame, guilt.
Shame, guilt. I kind of figured that.
It comes in at 10.
Okay.
10. Which is the lowest vibration you can have and still be alive. And as you know, in your experience, shame is usually the factor in suicide.
Yeah.
And I experienced that myself. I wasn't good enough to live. And so my recommendation is, if you feel guilt, you must get out of it because there's no hope. There's no
potential in there. Like
the only thing you can do is guilt yourself more.
Yeah.
So shame comes in at 20 and guilt has come at 10. And then sometimes it said shame comes in at, guilt comes in at 20 and shame comes in at 10. So it really doesn't matter. It's just shame, guilt. So I say to people, if you're in guilt, you have to get out of it. And this is one thing that I would love for your listeners to hear, because this is a takeaway. Scientifically proven that you can't stay in shame or guilt. It will lead to your death.
Yeah. So how do we get rid of it?
Well, you can at least feel regret. I had a client that was so depressed, so guilt-ridden, because she couldn't help her mother heal from alcoholism.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But you know how that is. If they don't want to heal, you can't help them. And when her mother passed away, she was extremely guilt-ridden.
Wow. Yeah.
So I helped her to feel regret. I'm so sad that I couldn't heal my mother. But what does regret do? Oh, I regret I put my money in the stock market and now it fell and I have lost my money. I ain't going to do that again. Regret leads to a decision, an option. So what she did was she began classes for women with alcohol problems, and she helped them have a new life. With her regret, she started a new process. So she got out of guilt with regret. Now, is regret the best one? It's better than guilt.
So can I share a personal experience from me around this topic that is quite heavy? So when I was 11, my youngest sister was born, and we had two brothers in between. And I was a very curious kid, and she was born at home. So I went to the bedroom, and I just sat down. She was already there, and the nurse put her on my lap and said, like, she's not crying, so you need to squeeze her feet so she will start crying, because I need to work on your mom. So I was 11, I was doing that, I was squeezing, and she didn't cry. So the next thing, like, that I remember later on was that she was being carried away with my mom in the ambulance. So my sister passed away in November 2017. And I think 2 years after that, I was in a sauna with one of my friends, and we started talking. I was in this grieving process, and all of a sudden this memory came back, and it was very traumatic. And for me, it was like overwhelming me so much because I completely forgot. Not forgot. I suppressed it.
Of course.
And I think that now we're talking about it. I think that, like, in the end, everything I do now has to do with identifying who you are, why you are who you are, building businesses around that, everything. It all relates to her. She was a multi-disabled girl who couldn't walk, talk, or take care of herself. But we didn't know that when she was born. So I think, like, it's a very big responsibility that you get when you are 11. I mean, and being taken away from this responsibility after she passed away put a lot of things in motion for me. And now we are talking about it. I'm thinking maybe I was also maybe I was ashamed, or I felt guilty
because you couldn't help her.
I couldn't help her. So I remember I was angry with her in that moment. Like, so why are you not doing what I want you to do? I mean, we are a team, right? You are my sister, and I was so looking forward to having this sister, and but I couldn't fulfill the task, and
Guilty.
It was quite a big one.
Well, of course, but you're trained to do that. You were trained to guilt yourself. You were trained. Our society trains you. I mean, you're in another country. I'm in another country, and it's the same thing. I'm talking to India this afternoon. They have the same problem. It's endemic, but it's not normal. We can get out of it. We have to, and it won't come to you unless you start talking shame, guilt, and go, oh, yeah, but you got to say the words. You know, and before, when I started talking, they said, you can't talk about shame or guilt because we don't talk about it. Not until the pandemic happened did they start talking.
Yeah.
They said, you're a great teacher. Can you talk about happiness or joy or loving? I said, yeah, but it's not going to help getting rid of shame, guilt. Well, we don't talk about that. I'm going, well, you'll never get rid of it.
Yeah.
Shame, guilt only has one problem. It dissolves in detection.
Ooh, can you say that again? Because now my English is, it dissolves.
It dissolves. It goes away. The jig is up. The game is over.
Yeah.
It's the shame, guilt game. The more you know, the more you win. The shame, guilt game.
Yeah.
The more you know, the more you win. Like a tennis pro, the more they practice, the more they win, right?
Yeah.
So that's why and as soon as you're finished the podcast and other people, they think about it, then tomorrow they forget because we're programmed to forget it. So that's why I say, keep it in your mind, keep hearing the podcast, keep doing the newsletter. And, you know, we have to keep at it because we're fighting against the culture, the religion, the government. Everybody's just trying to shame us.
So how do you see your, like, if you talk about the solution part, how do you see your role, and how far do you see your legacy go in this?
I'm a teacher. I have to help people to see what's right there, but they didn't name it. Once you name it, it becomes real, and you know how to get rid of it. Once you identify it, you go, I out of here. It doesn't take smarts to do that because you find it. But like you, like me, like all of us, we think, oh my goodness, 5 years ago when I was at that party and the guys did not like my dress, I was very ashamed, but I didn't realize it at that time. So I go back in my mind, I go, throw it away. I see you, shame, guilt. You're not here. And it dissolves. And
yeah. And it can also be like, it doesn't always have to be in like big situations like the one that I just shared with you. It can also be in the smaller day-to-day things.
Yeah, I didn't make my cookies right.
For example,
they were too crispy. I couldn't eat them.
Yes, and
I did something right. I made the cake wrong. My steak didn't turn out. It was too well done. I mean, everything we do.
But this is really valuable, Loïs, and maybe we should have started with this, but there's probably a reason why we haven't. Like, shame guilt is an energy let's say it's a destructive energy that not necessarily comes along with big events in life like you had with your near-death experience, or with I had with my sister. But it can be that you are, like, for example, this morning I'm always going on my walk. I walk 7 kilometers every morning, and I was just looking in the mirror and I was like, oh my God, I'm ashamed of what I look like this morning. It was like, all these things, it comes and goes the whole day, basically.
Exactly. And that's why mindfulness is important. But if the mindless, you have to know what you're looking at. So I have to teach you. I have to show you, and you have to see examples. I have 500 examples. And then how to stop that from happening is to make friends with your inner critic. Your inner critic produces those words, and people say, oh, get away, cut your head off. I'm going, you can't do that. You got to make friends with that person inside of you. You can't cut them up. In fact, the more you try to get rid of them, the more he or she shames you, because that's what your inner critic knows, was trained. And your inner critic is my inner critic is 1950, when I was 2 and 3 and 4 and 8 and 10. Don't do this, don't do that. I'm living in 2022. So I have to tell my inner critic, can you come into my adult world now?
So there's one other example that I want to run by you that just popped into my mind. So and this is it's actually from one of my clients and one of my clients to be. They are feeling guilt around being more successment, becoming successful. I mean, it can also work like for entrepreneurs, and I experience it myself as well. Like that I feel shame and guilt around me and my growing business.
Exactly.
And I hear a lot of women, like female entrepreneurs mainly, not even male entrepreneurs, but female entrepreneurs, having this energy around their success.
And they won't get rid of it with mind and meditation until they make friends with the inner critic, because the inner critic is running their life. You think you're running your life. Lois isn't.
No.
My inner critic, his name is King, and he's running. And I have a film on that as well.
Yeah.
How to make friends with your inner critic.
We need to watch it. I will put the links of everything in the description.
Yeah, so it's I'm Good Film, and it's episode 3, and I start how the beginning is. Now, the King, your inner critic, is the one that produces the shame and gives you all these messages. I didn't make the cookies right. My eyebrows aren't straight. My face has got a wrinkle in it. My teeth don't look as white as Gertrude's does. I mean, we can do forever. But it won't stop. I'm telling you, it won't stop until you make friends with the inner critic. And you can't tell the inner critic to shut up. If I want to have a relationship with you, I have to talk with you. What kind of ice cream do you like? What kind of food do you like? What kind of people do you like? What kind of music do you like? So that's how we make friends with our inner critic. We talk to our inner critic. Now, my inner critic changed his job. I did not tell him to change his job, but I told him he could have more power if he didn't babysit me all the time. He had more time. So now he goes around finding me wonderful people like you to be on the podcast, and doesn't bother me about the way I brush my teeth or what kind of cookies I made. Am I shame guilt free? No, I still have it, but it's like 90% less than what it used to be.
Wow, amazing. Amazing.
And that's just because I got rid of it, and I made friends with the inner critic. But you got to make friends. And that's something that's really not used. They do interpersonality parts, but they don't do the inner critic.
No, you are definitely right. And I'm thinking about so many things right now that
we just have to have part 2.
We have to have part 2. Yeah, I think we're already in an hour. So this was, I think we
got to do part 2.
Yeah, we have to do it. I need to sit on this. And I am going to you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask a few female entrepreneurs in my network around this topic. And I think it's very interesting to do a round two. Also,
we can do a Zoom with them, whatever.
Yeah, we can do a Zoom. So I was actually thinking about one of the.
If I can do a session with one or something and show them how it works.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, because I also have the Game Changers United online. So I'm creating online network events for handpicked people that I think should be in one room together digitally, and I might do one on this topic. So
it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I will get back on it. So before let's wrap it up for the listeners. Loïs, thank you so much for sharing your story with all of us and giving us such wonderful and valuable information and insights on a topic that is like, I don't know, it was so invisible, but it's so strong.
That's its power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Remember Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz?
Well, I never watched it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a great metaphor, but anyway, it's a
maybe for the listeners.
Yeah. Dorothy goes up the yellow brick road for the all-powerful Oz. She has to talk to the wizard and she trembles. And Toto, her doggie, pulls the curtain back and she sees the wizard, which everybody talks about, is a little old man, bald and gray, with a big machine that's making green smoke. Shame guilt is a puff of green smoke. That's all it is. That's the truth.
That's the truth.
And you can kick it out because it's an uninvited guest.
Exactly that. I love it so much. Thank you so much. Stick with me after I stop the recording, please, because I really want to thank you again in person. And if anyone has any questions about this topic, Loïs, we will make sure that all the right links to your website and to the films that you have are in the description of this podcast, as well as your website, of course, where they can contact you if they.
And what they can do is loishollis.com, and everything links back to that.
Exactly.
All my websites are interconnected. So Loïs Hollis, LOISHOLLIS.com. And that's it.
Perfect. Well, we will make sure that we put it in the description as well. So everyone that is interested is landing on the right website. And thank you again. And I'm really looking forward to part 2, actually.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Okay, thank you so much.